Hello, welcome to Prophecy Pod Radio. Today I'm going to take a little bit of a break from my current study because I'd like to focus a little bit on apologetics. Now, the Bible teaches us that mankind is separated from God, and it also teaches us that God has provided a way for us to be reconciled to Him. So apologetics are very important because a lot of people don't believe that there is a God, and a lot of people don't believe in the Bible, and a lot of people, they do believe in God, but they don't believe that if God exists that He would provide only one way to reach Him. So apologetics are important. Now, of all the world's religions, only Christianity can stand up to the tough questions. And we get that when we study apologetics. Now, for those who don't believe that God exists, they have to believe that everything that exists created itself. So there are basic scientific observations that point to the existence of God. If they truly want to have answers, and if they're just not going to be dogmatic, for a lot of people, their atheism is their religion, and they're very dogmatic. As a matter of fact, I think that they're more dogmatic than a lot of Christians. But there are basic observations, scientific observations, that point to the existence of God, for those who are open-minded enough to actually look at them and to consider these things. And a lot of people do have an open mind about these matters. Now, one of these things is causation. God provides the best explanation for the existence of the universe and everything in it. Now, the alternative theory to God is that nothing exploded and it resulted in everything that we see. And of course that just doesn't make sense. And when we look at the world, we also see order. And God provides the best explanation for that. He provides the best explanation for abstract notions such as chemical-based processes or natural laws. And the alternative theory is that chaos ordered itself into complex information systems. And that contradicts physics, and it contradicts the laws of thermodynamics, and it just does not make sense. But we also see the appearance of design in nature, and God provides the best explanation for that as well, for that design. So we see design in the complexity of everything, and the complexity of the cosmos, and chemical and biological systems. Now, the alternative theory here is that random chance engineered apparent design. We also see encoded instructions. We see information in nature, and God provides the best explanation for that. Information is always the product of an intelligent mind. The digital DNA code alone demands an intelligent designer. The alternative theory is that complex code can just pop into existence without any kind of programming or testing or debugging. And we see irreducible complexity in nature, and God provides the best explanation for that, for fully functioning biological organisms, because these organisms couldn't have come about through gradual evolutionary process, because they would have ceased to exist at the lower evolutionary levels. So God provides the best explanation for the existence of that, and He also provides the best explanation for the existence of morality and love and emotion. Now, when it comes to the question of does God exist, there are just two scientific worldviews. Either someone or something did it, or it did it itself. Whether it's the beginning of the cosmos or the beginning of life, either someone or something is responsible for everything that we see, or else it's responsible for itself. And that just does not make sense. We know that, I'm sure most of you have heard it. If you're looking at a painting, you know that there was a painter. But we're looking at a creation, and that begs for a creator. Now, that's just a very brief look at why God provides the best explanation for the existence of the universe and all that's in it. But apologetics can get really complex. And I think that if you just keep things simple, for one thing, it's easier to remember, and sometimes that's all it takes. Is if somebody is really looking for answers, they just need a simple explanation and something that makes sense, So I think that this is something that you can probably learn. It's easy to remember, and it's something that does have an impact on somebody who's honestly looking for answers. But there are a lot of great resources out there, and I recommend looking over some of the resources at these two websites. One of them is apologetics315.blogspot.com, and there are a lot of resources there, and they've got some really great ones. And then another one is pleaseconvinceme.com, and he has a lot of links there. That's Jim Wallace. He's a he's a cold case homicide detective, and he really knows how to examine evidence. He gets into it in great detail, so I really recommend his site and apologetics315.blogspot.com. Now next I'd like to look at what evidence we see in the Bible, inherent in the Bible, that points to it being the actual words of God. And that's prophecy. There are a lot of other things that we can look at. We can look at the scientific evidence in the Bible, the archaeological evidence, but prophecy is one of the things that God specifically mentions to point that we can know that this is His word, because He knows the end from the beginning. So and we see this in Isaiah 46:9, where we read, "Remember the former things of old, for I am God and there is no other. I am God and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times things not yet done." So throughout the scriptures, God reveals the future to His prophets. And here are some of the prophecies that God has made regarding Israel. And I'm just going to focus on Israel because a lot of these prophecies have been fulfilled, if not in our own lifetimes, within the lifetimes of our parents. So if you look at Deuteronomy 28:64, the Lord said, "I will scatter you among all peoples, from one end of the earth to the other." And He's talking to the Jewish people. "And there you shall serve other gods, which neither you nor your fathers have known, wood and stone. And among those nations you shall find no rest, nor shall the sole of your foot have a resting place. But there the Lord will give you a trembling heart, failing eyes, and anguish of soul. Your life shall hang in doubt before you. You shall fear day and night, and have no assurance of life. In the morning you shall say, Oh, that it were evening, and at evening you shall say, Oh, that it were morning, because of the fear which terrifies your heart, and because of the sight which your eyes see." And that pretty much is a history of the Jewish people. That prophecy was made over 3,000 years ago, and more than 1,000 years after it was made, it came to pass. The Jews were dispersed throughout the entire earth. And this shows us that God does know the end from the beginning. And we see this also in Leviticus 26:32. We see this warning prophesied again and again. "I will scatter you among the nations, and draw out a sword after you. Your land shall be desolate, and your cities waste." But God also promised that He would bring them back to their land. Now look at this prophecy. This is from Ezekiel 11:16. This was made about 2,600 years ago. "Therefore say, Thus says the Lord God, although I have cast them far off among the Gentiles, and although I have scattered them among the countries, yet I shall be a little sanctuary for them in the countries where they have gone. Therefore say, Thus says the Lord God, I will gather you from the peoples, assemble you from the countries where you have been scattered, and will give you the land of Israel." So see here, it is God that gives the land of Israel to the Jewish people, not the UN and not anyone else. It's God. There are over 1,000 references to the regathering of Israel in the Old Testament. And one of the most famous passages is probably the Drybones Passage, and that's in Ezekiel 37. I don't have time to read that, so I hope that you will read that. And when you do, think about the Holocaust as you go through it. But we see this promise over and over again in Scriptures, that God would regather and return the Jewish people to their land. And today in our lifetime, the Jewish people have returned to the land, and they've come from every nation on the face of the earth, and they have returned to the land